Hi textile buddies, I'm Daria, textile and surface pattern designer, painter and educator. On this channel we talk all things textile, pattern, color and artwork, artist life, artist struggles and so on. Today I just wanted to give you an update on what's going on. I know there have been no videos for a while and I wanted to explain why. The reason is actually good. It's because I'm very actively working on my second Skillshare class. I have already filmed it and now I'm editing it. And of course I wanted to show up here, talk about everything, sort of discuss news. I wanted to introduce a new format of videos and I had an idea of calling this, maybe a playlist, Textile Tea, which the tea in this case would mean gossip, things to discuss, something to talk about. Of course, I will try to still be relevant to the field. It is going to be a more of an unscripted kind of videos because I have, created so many videos in the past month and I'm just a little bit exhausted, but I would like to show up and talk to you guys, and I think about you guys all the time, I promise. So I will be rambling a little bit, but hopefully it will not be useless because I'm not a big fan of wasting people's time. So some key points that I want to talk about today are: we will discuss two instances when my designs were copied, thoughts on inspiration and plagiarism. I keep coming back to this topic, it's a very important one. Joann fabric stores in the United States are closing down, and what does it mean for us as textile designers? Society 6 has introduced a new system for contributors. They kicked out a bunch of designers, including me, and we'll touch upon this briefly. Of course, I want to talk about the class, process of making it, my thoughts on it, and I want to give you an update what kind of class it will be. And I will talk about some personal circumstances, just to give you a little bit of context, what I have been up to. And I will try my best to keep it short because I noticed my videos are getting longer and longer and I don't think it's very good. I hope, at least some of you enjoy it, but I'll do my best to be concise. So let's get started. The two instances, when my designs were copied kind of happened at about the same time. So at first, I think it was probably late fall of last year, I got an email saying, hey, your designs are being copied, your art is being stolen, let us help. And I disregarded this email because I do get a lot of scam messages and, messages where people are trying to sell something to me, sell their services of, reviewing my Wix website and whatever, or like Shopify and whatnot. So I disregarded the message. But then in a few days, they sent me another email that included a screenshot with my design. And I was like, what? Excuse me? I'm listening now. So it is a company, an intellectual property lawyer company from London, United Kingdom, called Edwin James. And this is not an ad or anything, God forbid. I already took some time. I sat down and, researched them, looked them up, made sure the company is legitimate. And I responded, please tell me more. What have you found? So they included another screenshot from Amazon with, my artwork. It was a different seller this time, but the same design still. So this design is being sold on my microstock websites and Spoonflower. And it probably appeared on my Instagram at some point. This is one of my older designs. So we had a call, a video call with Sarah, the representative for the company, where we spoke, and she said, we specialize on helping artists and designers like you whose designs are being stolen from microstock websites. Microstocks are websites where, in case you don't know, a designer uploads their work and then different companies, usually smaller companies, sometimes larger companies, buy licenses. It's a very popular service and it's very affordable for the clients. And of course, we get very small royalties. I noticed it's not very popular, in the United States here because people think, for 25 cents royalty, I'm not even going to bother. And that was my thinking for a very long time as well. But then I watched Oxantia's videos on YouTube. You probably saw her videos if you care about textile design. And she kept talking about uploading to microstocks and that you can be very successful and this can be your passive income. And I was sold on the idea. So I was still working at my full-time designer job at the time, but I was looking for ways, to transition. I was like, what do? I do want to have a passive income. I didn't know yet what I was going to do. I didn't know yet that I was going to quit my full-time job, but I started uploading to the websites. So it's just, a little of a lead up to the talk with the lawyer. So I mention microstocks here and there in my videos as well. What happened there is, you basically create a lot of motifs. I mean, you can sell different things as a designer. You can sell watercolor illustrations, you can sell vectors. So the thinking at the time was, and I think it still is, that vectors sell the best. And I started creating a lot of vector designs, which actually helped me become a better designer and actually helped me in my full-time job as well. So I was doing this at home, my free time after work. I was creating a collection of motifs. For example, one of my first ones, it was I think August or something like that. So I drew apples, I drew acorns, autumn leaves, and then you kind of use it as a constructor of different patterns. So you reuse your motifs many times, you recolor them, you rescale them, and you can reuse them in many designs. So the advantage of this, method selling through microstock websites is that you don't have to create new artwork from scratch all the time. But the disadvantage, there are disadvantages. First of all, of course, you get a very small commission on that. Literally, sometimes you get 10 cents per download, because for clients, they buy subscription and they pay, I don't know how much they pay, maybe $100 a month or something like that. And then they get a package of like 10 free designs per month. And then, as a designer, every time a customer buys a license for your design, you get 10 cents. But there are 10 or 25 cents. Sometimes it's $1, sometimes it's $2. Sometimes though, there is a license called extended license where the clients pay a little bit more because they want to make a lot of product and they are obliged to buy an extended license. I cannot be paid 25 cents and people create a factory full of fabric yardage and placemats and whatnot. So if you are planning to make a lot of products, you do have to buy an extended license as a customer. And of course, it's all outlined in the microstock website conditions. Some of the most popular microstock websites are Adobe Stock, Vector Stock, Shutterstock. Then, there's Dreamstime, there's 123RF, what else? There are Getty Images and more. So I did that for about 3 years. I relentlessly created designs and uploaded them, every single weekend. And what happened at the time, I burned out, of course, got so tired. I was like, this is not worth it. I'm not going to do it. But then it's very addicting because you keep getting those royalties. Yes, it's not a lot of money, of course. I got like $20 per month, per each website. It's not a lot, but the thing is, when you think, oh, I did this once and I uploaded this and kind of forgot about it, and then I get royalties, you get addicted to this additional income. And what designers like Oxantia say is that if you keep uploading more and more artworks, eventually you will have 30,000 designs and you can live off of this income. And the connection to Oxantia is not accidental. We both speak Russian, so we get a lot of resources from the Russian side of the internet. And I think, that's what Oxantia did as well. And she did a great job, bringing this into the English-speaking internet. Because, there are other countries in the world besides the United States and the UK and Russia and, people in India, people in Asia create designs too, and so on and so forth. As long as you're happy with those royalties and you understand the terms and the circumstances, and we're going to get to it in a minute. So why not? If you want to upload, you can. So, and the designs I was creating at the time, first of all, I was learning. I was, not all of my designs were very good, especially in the beginning, which is completely normal. I treated this income stream as like, I never put out the designs there that I'm very proud of, that I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my best work. There are some good designs, that I have put a lot of work in, that I uploaded to microstock. And sometimes I wanted to test, okay, if I upload this design, really elaborate coastal design or something, like, will it sell and how much money can I make? Because sometimes you do get extended licenses and you can make some money off of it. Or, for example, I already tried to sell this design otherwise, uploaded it to Spoonflower, and there was no interest. Nobody bought a license, nobody bought a lot of fabric or wallpaper. So I had to repurpose this design. Then I would upload it to microstocks. And then, I had a long break where I did not upload anything to microstocks. I sort of redirected all my energy to Spoonflower. I had very high hopes for it, and I did put a lot of great work on there. I was also simultaneously uploading the same designs from microstocks to Spoonflower. Not all of them, but you know, some of them were okay as well. They were like little hearts, little stars, and stripes, and things like that. And they are selling as well sometimes, you know, not too much, because it's a different audience, you know, Spoonflower customers and microstock customers, which could be, for example, publishers who create calendars or, you know, wall art or packaging. A lot of designs I bought for packaging. I actually recently found my design at the store, and I should grab, there's like a shower cap, I'll show you. Or maybe I will insert a photo or something. It was the first time, you know, when I encountered my design that was licensed. It was an extended license. It's a company in the UK, and they created shower caps and plastic refill bottles for, like, you know, spray bottles. So funny. So I had a long break where I did not upload any designs to stocks, but then, you know, I noticed in a few years that my Spoonflower sales are going down. Actually, I made videos about it, you know, when Spoonflower was introducing a lot of changes. They were changing their strategy, they were gearing towards wallpaper, and you know, I noticed that my hand-painted designs are not doing as well as I would like them to. And most of the winners in Spoonflower challenges, most of the bestsellers are Procreate drawn designs, you know, on the iPad, which I do not do. I have a couple, but again, even like I had some high placements in the challenges. I usually got some sales after that, but then, you know, it was never sustainable enough. It was never, you know, I see other designers who we kind of started with at the same time, and they are doing great, but for me it wasn't working out. So as I was struggling and figuring out what to do next, I started uploading to stocks again, because it's something that I can do easily, very quick for me. I keep repurposing my own motifs, and I do get those sales. And actually at some point, you know, some months I make more on microstocks than I make on Spoonflower, which is absolutely insane in my mind, but it is what it is. It's still, you know, I'm still not making much on microstocks. It's still more like lunch money or even coffee money. But still, you know, sometimes on Spoonflower there is nothing. And, you know, we talk a lot about having multiple income streams. That's exactly the reason why, because sometimes there is no income on one stream, but you might have something else on another stream. So getting back to the lawyer appointment, you know, we were speaking with Sarah, is not a lawyer herself, but she's a representative for the law company. So we were on a video call. Of course, I checked those 2 Amazon sellers that they sent me the screenshots of. And of course, you know, they don't have a lot of reviews. They have like 5 reviews, 3 of them are negative. They are located in China. There's, you know, address in China. So I said to Sarah, you know, they probably didn't even make anything off of my designs. Like, why should I worry about them? And my second question was, what if they bought a license? You know, what if they had bought as an extended license? So she said they only start the legal process if they find a minimum of 50 offenders. So they kind of work in bulk. They take a lot of cases at the same time to court. So it's not like one single lonely Amazon seller. They would investigate, look at my portfolio first, and then she said the way they do it, they found the companies that do this, and then they track back those designs and find, you know, who the designer is. So they specialize in working with microstock artists. And if you go to Edwin James' website, there are successful cases. On the homepage there is a case of a German artist who bought an apartment from legal proceedings, you know, what they won in the court with Edwin James, which of course I do not hope that it will be like this. He's a very famous, you know, he has a lot more followers than me and things like that, but I think it's a proof at least that they are legitimate. So they said they will, you know, they are still doing this as we speak right now. It's March 5th, 2025. They are looking at my portfolio. They are looking at which designs were potentially stolen, and then they will help me file documents with United States Patent Trademark Office, USPTO, to register copyright on those, you know, most offended designs. And then they will start the legal process. It all takes about a year to complete. Sometimes it's a little bit faster. Also, when I told Sarah, you know, like it's just a small Amazon seller, and she said, Daria, you don't understand, this is basically organized crime. There are entire factories in China and other countries that rip off designs like this. And even if you look at that screenshot that, you know, they provided me, you can see the repeat is not stepped out. So they did not even bother, you know, to step out the repeat. It's just the tile stretched to the length of the mat or whatever it is. And you know, I also told Sarah, like I said, that this is not my best work, but who knows, maybe my best work was stolen as well. I hope they find it, but I'm also dreading it at the same time. It's a very sensitive topic. It hurts when you see that your art is being misused. So that's kind of, you know, what it is in this case. And the second instance happened basically right after Edwin James contacted me. I went to a store and I saw a design that looked very similar, and the store was the one that belongs to the company where I used to work as a designer. How's that? So let's sip this hot tea, okay? So if you watch my videos, you know, if you follow me, you probably already know the company I worked for. I'm not going to voice it over here, but it's very easy to find out. It's a global, you know, giant, manufacturing giant that is, you know, the headquarters is here where I live, pretty close. I drive by all the time. I worked there for 4 years. Last month I was at a shop. You know, I shop at the stores all the time because I still like them. And I was, you know, at the checkout line, and I was like passing by, and then I was like, wait a minute, that looks very familiar. So I saw this giant reusable bag that had a tiger design on, and I'm going to show it over here because, you know, first of all, I want to say I'm not making any accusations. I'm not saying like they stole my design. I am though 95% sure that they used my design for inspiration, and I think it's very important to discuss it. Because of this, you know, remember 10%, like the design has to be 10% different to be safe, right? Because everybody gets inspired, everybody looks at things. I look at things too, you know, I take screenshots, I take photos. I'm very serious about copying designs, and I try to go as far as I can. I really don't want to rip anybody off. I really don't want to steal anybody's work. So I saw this design, you know, I'll include it here, with tigers on it. And this is one of the designs that I spent a lot of hours on. Like I drew the sketches from scratch. I traced them using a light table, which I normally don't do because it's tigers, you know, animals are difficult to draw. It's hours of painting flowers that I reused later on, and I have all the materials, I have everything. I even used snippets of the design in my class, in my first class too. So the design that I saw in the store, of course it's different. It's not the same. It's not exactly the same. And I think that's the kind of the tragedy of it all, is that they have made enough precautions and they didn't steal anything. But if you see, you know, the poses of the tigers are very similar. The blue stripes, I mean, have you ever seen blue stripes on tigers before? I haven't. It was my original idea because, you know, I painted them in black, you know, orange and black first, but then as they started putting them together with the flowers, the black was a little too stark, so I changed it to blue, and I thought it worked really well with the flowers. Then, you know, the poses sometimes are identical. Of course, they are flipped, they are mirrored in many cases. This whole idea of flowers going around the tigers and, you know, things like that. So I was devastated. I was like, what the heck? Like, why? You know, the tragedy of it all is that I worked there. They know me and I know them. And I think that's how it happened because, you know, I know the person who works in that product category, and it's actually the same person who called me not so long ago and asked, how can she transition to being an artist? And those were my first emotions. I was like, how can you do this? Like, I understand we all, you know, get inspired, but you know me personally. How can you do this to me? Like, why didn't you reach out to me and say, can we buy your design? I would sell it to them in a heartbeat. Even though, you know, I really like this design, I'm very proud of it. So I think, again, it kind of appears as I'm accusing them, and I might be wrong. You know, I came home, I was so upset. I texted my husband. And he's like, maybe they, bought it somewhere and that artist copied it from you and they didn't know. Maybe, yes, that's a possibility. But, having worked there and knowing the process, most likely the way it happened is they took my design, they printed it out, they pinned it on the wall for inspiration. Then they discussed it and they were like, let's do this. And they asked a freelancer to copy this design. So this has happened before, and I know 100% that this person would absolutely do this. Like, they have done this before and they have actually gotten in trouble for this. So again, please understand my situation here. Like, I'm very upset, but at the same time, I reached out to the lawyer, I reached out to Edwin James, included the photos, wrote whatever I said here, and they said they have taken enough precautions, they have changed the design enough, so it will be very difficult to make a strong legal case. My husband used to be a lawyer in Belarus before we came here. Now he works in IT, but he is still a lawyer. And he looked into this and he's like, we can sue them if you want. We can, file a lawsuit ourselves. It costs like $100 to sue them. And I was like, I really don't want to sue anybody by myself. And this whole situation, these two instances when I realized my designs are being copied, my designs are inspiring corporations, made me think about a lot of things, a lot of angles of this situation, where the first instinct was a lot of resentment and hurt and bitterness. And I was like, I made a video at some point, like, what do you do if your design is stolen? And I said, you basically can't do anything and you have to keep creating and you can't stop. And guys, it hits a little different when it actually happens to you. So I spent a couple days being upset, but then I was like, what if I look at this from another angle? They are watching me. I know for a fact that a few designers from the company are following me on social media, so it's not a big deal that they saw my design. But then I was like, anger as an emotion has a lot of strength in it, and I was like, well, I am that good that the corporation copied my design. I am being seen, I am being noticed, I am being remembered. They are looking at my work, right? And I know it's a little bit of a bitter fact, but actually when your designs are starting to get stolen, means you are getting big enough, you are being noticed. I'm not 100% happy about this fact. I would rather be paid for my designs. But at the same time, we're coming to a very philosophical conclusion. I'm an artist. My mission on this earth is to create beautiful things. I don't want to get caught up in, legal shenanigans. I don't want to get bitter. And you know what? I'm talented enough. I will create more designs. If all you can do is copy, this is very sad, but it's not the first and not the last instance. And there were legal proceedings before, so we'll see how it goes. I don't know. All I can do, again, is still keep creating. At the same time, it is what it is. Designs can get stolen, they can get copied, and the bigger and the more popular you become, the more it will be happening. It is sad because, they did this and they keep doing this because they think and they know that they will get away with it. And, I probably won't sue them. And most likely I will not, but I will now keep an eye on them. I definitely will. Also, I wanted to say, I really don't want to get to the point where I'm paranoid and I think everybody wants my designs, everybody's stealing my designs. And like Edwin James said, tigers with flowers are a common motif in textile design. Well, honestly, I've seen leopards, I've seen cheetahs. I haven't seen many tigers though, but I think it was last year was the year of the tiger, or maybe 2 years ago. So probably that was a part of the deal. But still, I don't want to be that paranoid person who thinks everybody takes from them. And there is a chance that I'm wrong and I'm mistaken and they did not get inspired with my design. Or it's just very unlikely, but still. Okay, what do you think? Do you see any similarities? Do you think they got inspired by my design? Do you think they copied? I hope the freelancer didn't trace my figures. That would be like ridiculous. my husband also said one more thing. He's like, well, when you worked in-house, you did the same, right? I'm like, no, that's different. Well, I didn't create original artwork when I was working in-house. They only let me do it once when COVID was happening. I was constantly begging, like, please let me paint something. And they're like, no. They have this whole thing about contractors. I was a contract designer. Like, contractors are not supposed to do this. Contractors are not supposed to do that. And in general, I think corporations have this very predatory approach to artists and designers. They think they can take what they like and they think they can get away with everything. Hopefully it will change one day. Now let's talk about some good things, okay? I want to talk about the class that I have created and that I'm working on. So a while ago I made a survey on YouTube and on Skillshare asking what do people want to learn. And the most popular answer was painting for textile design. And I considered different ways of organizing information. And so what I did, this class, it was an instance when yet again, I realized that I think a little bit differently. So I was like, oh, that's easy. I'll do ink, watercolor, and gouache. And it's all related to one another and it'll be easy. But when I started breaking down the information, I filmed a lot of videos. And then I was like, the lessons can't be 30 minutes long. So when I broke everything down, I got 33 lessons. So there will be a block we'll start with ink, and that's going to be, I think, very easy. We'll talk about gouache next, and then watercolor. And I hope this class will be useful for everybody in a way. Most of the classes are usually geared towards total beginners, and I think most of my classes will be very easy for beginners. I will talk about all my supplies, paper, paint, ink, brushes and everything, how to use them and things like that. There will be plenty of information. I know usually people love learning, like, what's that particular brush? So I'll tell you everything. All my favorite brands of watercolor and ink and gouache too. And for people who are maybe more advanced, there will be also lessons on how to plan a design, how to sketch it out, where to get inspiration. And again, we will talk about not plagiarizing anything, how to do it, how to work with different references. So I wanted to pair up a topic, for example, ink, and then using the properties of the brush to create the design. Then we will be using magazine cutouts for inspiration. Then I actually have some artwork right here that I painted during the class. Do you want a sneak peek? So we'll do something as easy as this. And I already removed my ink shapes where it's like abstract designs, leopard spots, and maybe I shouldn't spoil everything, right? What if my competitors steal my ideas? Okay, so for more advanced painters, there will be a large block on loose watercolor florals, because I think it's a very important topic for fashion design, textile designers for fashion, and I will do my best to share my knowledge and everything. And actually it will be a very studio-based class. You will not be looking at my face the entire time like the first class. I will be painting with you, so you'll see a lot of my hands and brushes and everything. So as for some behind the scenes, when I started copying I filmed during a few weeks, so it's a very intense process because you have to be fully focused. You can't listen to music or something like that. And I also pulled a lot of materials to show examples of what we will be learning. So it's quite a tiring process, and I filmed in a few rounds. This is the most studio work that I've ever filmed. And then when I started copying videos to my computer, it was a total collapse, because Skillshare requires highest possible quality, I think. And the higher the quality is, the bigger the files are. And I didn't realize that I had filmed so much, and I had all this, footage, gigabytes of videos. And when I started copying those, my computer was like completely shut down. I couldn't load it. I had 2 days when I was grieving. I was like, I'm gonna lose everything. How will I recover it? And the problem is I have a Mac and I'm using Time Machine, which actually turned out to be one of the problems. So I was doing automatic backups. So I had 3 or 4 years of backups on my Time Machine, which completely filled up the entire space, and which I was not realizing. And my iCloud got full as well. Everything was like completely, so I think it's impossible to film a class just easily. Last year I had struggles. So last year when I was filming the first class was actually probably the very end of 2023. But then I was editing it, January through March of 2024, and then I finally posted it about this time of the year. So at the time, I posted it, I announced it everywhere, and I posted links, I prepared a video to introduce the class, and then Skillshare took it down the next day because they said the sound quality wasn't good enough, because I was like handling papers and making rustling noises like this. And also I live on a busy street, it's a suburban town, but this is a truck route that goes along my house, and the city downtown, the town downtown is right over here. So there's a lot of trucks and cars and noises and construction and everything, and I didn't realize that Skillshare is so serious about it. So what I had to do, luckily it wasn't every single lesson, but with some lessons they said like lesson 3, 5 and 7. So I opened my video editing program again, and I had to cut out the noises between the words. Can you imagine? Because I used like noise cancellation, but then that distorts the audio quality too. So at the time I was like, why am I even doing this? Like, why is it so hard? But then I resubmitted, and people were like, I'm clicking the link and there's nothing, like, where's the class? I was devastated. I was like losing my sleep as usual. But thankfully it was posted later on, people watched it, and thank you again all of you who watched it. Currently there are 304 students in my class, and I'm so thankful, you guys. I appreciate you so much, and I hope you enjoy the new class. It will probably take me about a month at least to finish editing it. I am doing my best, I promise. My plan was to post it by April. I am actually going back to my part-time job, which is a seasonal botanical garden job as a visitor center and shop assistant, where I'm selling, tickets, I'm selling plants to people, and I'm selling gifts in a gift shop, and I will talk more about it a little bit later. So my manager asked me to start 1 month early. So here that train passing by. So when I was filming my Skillshare class, I had to stop and wait till the train is gone. Now I'm doing this, or a truck when there's like a big truck, I'm like waiting. I think it adds to the ambience. What do you think? I like trains, but Skillshare doesn't think that. So my manager asked me to start 1 month early, March 10th. So I'm starting next week, which means, I will have a little bit less time for editing classes and doing other design things. But I'm on it. It's filmed, it's done, the footage is there. I hope it will be useful. I hope you will enjoy it, and we'll paint together, and stay tuned. Of course, I will post an announcement when the class is ready. So a couple more news, from the textile design world. Joann fabric store is, a United States chain of stores that sells fabric and things for crafting and some art supplies, not professional grade like artist paints, but fabric is the first thought. When I was in college for textile design, they were like, you can go to Joann and buy fabric, and I'm like, what's Joann? Because I was still kind of new to the United States, only 7 years there. So this is a chain that has been open for about 80 years, and they are going bankrupt. And at first they announced that there will be, they will close only half of their stores, and everybody was already upset. But later on they announced that they will be closing all of their stores, which is, interesting news because it's kind of major. But honestly, some people in the community have expressed thoughts that it might be even good for us. What if people will start buying more Spoonflower fabric? What do you think? As someone who sews a little bit, I would say Joann is not my favorite store to shop at for fabric. I like it more for like home decor things and little frames, little vases sometimes. But I have to admit, in the past months, they were kind of, declining. You can see a lot of empty shelves, you can see a lot of mess, they are understaffed. And honestly, for those who sew, and I know not all of you are in the United States and you probably have other fabric stores, So I encourage you to shop at local private stores, privately owned stores, which, you know, we have one in, if you are in this area as well, it's called Fabric Basement in Natick in the Boston area, and there are other stores called Sophisticated Fabrics with SEW, which actually one of their stores recently closed as well. So for me, I had 3 fabric stores nearby, now I will only have 1, but at least it's the best one, you know, the Fabric Basement. I also read that in general, you know, fabric sales have been kind of declining, and in terms of, you know, surface pattern design, wallpaper is suddenly popular again. And, you know, I also made an attempt to design more wallpaper, and I've seen some of my fellow designers who are more successful at it than me. Well, but I am, you know, I'm turning into a painter more and more, and I love painting with all my heart. So we'll see how it goes. So I wanted to say a couple words about Society 6, which I did a bulk of work that I posted. There was probably a total of 100 designs or so, maybe even less, seriously. What I also did is I actually took this design, I didn't realize it's here. It's called Aromatherapy, and I created a lot of wall art with the same motifs, with all these eucalyptus and lemon and orange, and I like those designs. I generally put in a lot of work into them. I added, you know, text in there and graphics, but I haven't sold any of them. Like in about a year and a half or maybe 2 years, there were no sales. So I spent this chunk of work posting this watercolor artwork because I saw other artists do that and they seemed to be successful. God knows if they are making anything either. So at some point, you know, I logged into Society 6 and I saw that, you know, I can only see 10 designs. Like, where's the rest? Where are all the other fruits and herbs? And later I got an email saying that, hey, you guys, like, nice to have you, but we are actually moving on with a different model. It will be a curated selection of designs. So they are kicking us out. And then, you know, I saw in the Facebook group some artists were also like, well, they kicked me out. Another one was like, I have no idea why, but they actually kept me even though I haven't had sales in a while. So I'm not super upset about that, but, you know, I'm just upset in general. Like, it's so hard. Designs are being ripped off, websites are closing down, shops are closing down. It's just not easy to be an artist, and that's the purpose of this video, I guess, is to share that many of us are struggling. I'm struggling in several ways as well. I'm not like thriving, unfortunately, which doesn't make me a worse designer or artist at all. I also wanted to share some personal things that have been happening to me. Like I said, I'm starting my part-time job again. I will be working at the plant shop and the visitor center. I am taking an oil painting class with a Boston artist, Irish-born Boston artist. Oil painting is new for me. I mentioned this recently, and I think I'm starting to like it, actually. This is kind of my creative outlet. It's not related to textile design, and I try not to take it very seriously because for the past few years I was always like, whenever my hand touched the paper, I was like, what is it going to be? Where am I going to sell it? How much is it going to cost? I don't want to think about it, you know. I'm an artist. I want to feed my soul and heart, and I have to paint some things just for me. So here are some of my works, which are copies. You know, I copy after the artist, Vincent Crotty, and still I'm having so much fun. So Vincent is such an amazing teacher, an amazing artist, and a sweet, gentle soul, and I love learning from him. And I actually just extended my class for another semester, so I will be painting through June, which I'm very excited about. I also last year did a 100-day project, which I made a video about, and I was considering doing it this year. I wanted to do a painting project only, but then, you know, I'm working on the class and I take it very seriously, so I realized I would not be able to do it, unfortunately. But I keep longing to paint more, and unfortunately it's not happening either. When will I just be able to paint as much as I want to? Maybe when I retire. Now I understand why most people at the art workshops and classes are retired. My daughter is thinking about college already. She is in 9th grade now, freshman of high school, so we are looking into colleges. That's a new chapter in our family life. So in general, it was a very difficult, long, cold winter. There were a lot of freezing temperatures, definitely below normal, below usual. You know, I'm in Massachusetts, and yes, it does get cold in winter, but normally only for like a few days. This winter it was constantly cold. I was in my sweatpants nonstop, even at the gym. So on November 8th, I lost my cat, who was 18 and a half years old, my sweet Cosmo, whom we brought from Belarus with us. He was definitely a family member, and it was a difficult week, you know. He was fading away for a week. He had multiple health conditions, and unfortunately in the end we had to euthanize him, which this whole situation, like taking the decision, is it right, is it wrong, a lot of guilt, a lot of tears. So this definitely affected my life and my creativity, which actually just shut down for a very long time. So after, you know, I finished my seasonal job, which ended in October, and then, you know, I lost my Cosmo. And I actually started struggling with my mental health. You know, I am prone to anxiety in general, but this was something horrible. So anxiety and depression, both of them. I mentioned in the previous video that I started working with a therapist. We had, I think, about 6 or 8 sessions. And then I put it on hold for now. I'm trying to manage it on my own. But I actually had to start a medication, antidepressant, which I am still on now. And, you know, it's definitely not a recommendation or anything like that, but I say it's very important to take care of your mental health, and there is nothing wrong with turning to doctors, turning to specialists, and I think these things should be taken seriously. There is help, you know, there's no need to suffer. But with that being said, I am suffering severe sleep disorders. I mentioned it as well, that I am prone to this in general, but actually the medication that I'm on, the first most common side effect is insomnia. And you guys, I am going crazy. I actually think I found a new combination of herbs and things to help me sleep better. So I take valerian, which is a popular thing, you know, it's an herb in Russian speaking countries. It's a very common thing to take. And I take melatonin, and I just figure out the ratio of what I need to take, like when and which and with what. So I have just had 2 nights of good sleep, because other than that, you know, usually on the new med, I am waking up at like 3 or 4 a.m. and I can't go back to sleep, and that's horrible. And I saw my doctor last week, and I said, you know, I'm struggling, I'm not sleeping. I, you know, wake up at 3, 4, 5 a.m. and then I fall back asleep at like 6, and then I take a nap because I'm dying basically. So she said, you sleep too much, you just spend too much time in bed, stop taking naps. I was like, this doesn't help at all. So I mean, she has a point. I have to fix up my sleep schedule, and I'm working on it, and you know, hopefully the valerian herb will help. The good news, you know, there's been a lot of ups and downs and really sad circumstances, but you know, losing my Cosmo, we actually in some time adopted 2 kitty cats, who now just make me so happy. Such a joy. Their names are Cheddar and Pluto. They are from a rescue. We adopted them from a shelter, and they are originally from Indiana, from a shelter there. So they are street cats or whatever they are, maybe barn cats. So we absolutely adore them. I turned into a crazy cat lady. I have always been one, but you know, losing Cosmo and now adopting Cheddar and Pluto has reignited this. I am buying cat toys. I am buying like merchandise. Look at this. Look at this. The United States is a very dog-loving country. I'm a proud cat lover, and I am a proud cat ambassador. But actually the fun thing about this pouch is that it's cat person and dog person. So another good update is that I did my first, I would say, illustration project for the garden where I work. I illustrated the scavenger hunt for kids. So when families come to visit, and we do get a lot of families with kids, we give them a handout so kids can check, you know, all the different things. And it was fun, you know, it's fun. I was actually approached by my manager, who said, you know, are you interested in illustrating? Like, I know that you draw. Do you want to draw something for us? And I did that. I did the fall one in the fall, and now I'm working on the spring edition, and there will also be a summer one, which is super fun. I also, super major news for me, I sold a big batch of silk scarves to the shop where I work. I'm very old-fashioned and modest, and I'm working on it. So for all the time that I was working there, I didn't say a word. But when the season was over and we actually learned that they decided to open up some holiday shopping hours so people can buy gifts. It's a gift shop. The botanical garden is closed for the winter, but there were a few weeks when the gift shop was open and people would come and buy gifts, and which is amazing because it's a lot of local products, a lot of ethically sourced products. My manager is great about sourcing all that stuff. So I plucked up all my courage and I sent my manager an email saying, hey, I think I have some designs that would actually work well for our shop if you're interested. And if no, it's okay, I don't insist. But she was actually very interested, and she bought around 45 or 46 scarves, which is the biggest I've ever sold. Normally I get like one scarf order through my website. And she, I brought samples and she looked at them and she picked the designs that she liked the most. And this surprisingly sparked horrible anxiety. I just stopped sleeping at all. So I was like, aren't you supposed to be happy? But when you have anxiety, you get anxious even when you are happy and full of joy. But again, I'm super happy, and in the future I'm definitely thinking of offering my products to other gift stores. But the class comes first, okay? I'll finish up the class. So I think that's all the news that I wanted to share today. Let's stay in touch. I think about you guys all the time. Sorry that I have disappeared, but life gets tough sometimes. But I watch some creators on YouTube too, and I hate it when they stop doing something that we all love. So I don't want to let you down. I will keep trying to persevere and post these videos and classes and share some positivity and creativity. And life is not all rainbow pony and butterfly gardens. Keep creating, keep persevering, and take care of yourself, please. Remember, patterns are everywhere, and if you have a day job, don't quit it yet to become an artist, okay? All right, bye. Talk to you soon.